Hi, Dr. Alex here, and welcome to a type of video I've not made in quite some time, one that's focusing on the various bits of computer hardware I've got, more specifically on the various ThinkPads I've got. In fact, scratching my head just now, I'm not sure I have any other laptop other than a ThinkPad of some sort. All the ones you're going to see today, I'm pretty sure will be ThinkPads. Well, I said in the title it'll be ThinkPads, so they're all Lenovo. Not quite old enough to be IBM, but they're all Lenovo ThinkPads of one shape or another, going from the one I use the most through to perhaps the ones I use the least. And a mention of something that won't really be part of this video, but will probably crop up in a future video. Yeah, another ThinkPad. Okay, so let's start with the first, or at least the most important ThinkPad, my daily driver, the T430, which I'm sure you've seen before in various videos prior to this, where I've been testing stuff. Let me just switch it on. Oh no, my hand's going to come to shot. Anyway, here it comes. It's running on battery only at the moment, so that does slow down the boot time a bit. And plus, I haven't reduced the timeout on this, so it's still waiting about 4 or 5 seconds before it goes through. Anyway, pretty quick. The T430 is one of the few laptops I have, well, one of the few main laptops I have where I haven't put an NVMe drive into it, although technically I could. And I might do that at some point in the future. Not as its main booting drive, though. I could go faster if I did do that, but I'm going to stick with the bulky SATA SSD drive that's in there at the moment. Okay, it's up to the boot on login screen. I'm going to block this bit out so you can't see it. Hopefully no one saw my password there. If my brain is screwed on correctly, I will have deleted that bit. Oh, that was fast. Even though it is running off the SATA drive, it is still pretty quick. So the T430 is largely as it has been for some time. This is my daily driver, the one I do my work on, the one I do all my video editing on, audio editing, putting together audiobooks, and also boring, drudgy day-to-day work tasks that I have to do as well, all get done on this laptop. Now, something that is different from the last time this featured as a main theme for a video is that I destroyed its Express Card slot. Now, this is not the only computer that had its Express Card slot destroyed. My old daily driver, the T420, which still gets used and still has an important role to play in my fleet, that also got its Express Card slot destroyed by the same Express Card device. That Express Card device is now in the bin, and I have replacements for it, and those ones have not destroyed any laptops so far, so fingers crossed that never happens again. But suffice to say, I had destroyed the Express Card slot in this, so the only thing I could do in the end was I replaced the motherboard. So given I replaced the motherboard, that meant that not only does now the Express Card slot work, the headphones jack, which was always a bit ropey before, is now perfect. I think the speakers got a bit louder, which is awesome. And generally, the whole laptop looks very nice. It still has all the same stuff it had before. It has the HD Plus screen. It's got the classic 7-row keyboard. In fact, you can see this classic 7-row keyboard, if you've got sharp eyes, is covered in little bits of Tipex, because this is one that I have had for some time, and it wasn't a British or English keyboard. Although it does have a $. It's got a few weird things in the wrong place, and so rather than me change the keyboard again, I just Tipexed on the ones that I commonly forget where they're supposed to be. Anyway, this is, as I say, my daily driver. You have seen me making videos with it, or you have seen the videos I've made with it. This video will almost certainly be made on this very laptop. Other things I have done with it, of course, will be making the audiobooks, as I say, and also I'm starting to do some research on it as well. Now, one thing I do like about this has got a quad-core i7, one of the fastest you can get. In fact, let me just bring up the diagnostics for this. Yes, this has got a 8-thread quad-core i7 3740QM, a very fast CPU. In fact, probably the fastest you can use safely. I'm using air quotes you can't see right now, because it's got an appropriate power consumption and shouldn't overheat or tax the power supply. I'm using the higher wattage power supplies anyway, but it should be one that's perfectly happy to run with. That said, I have been investigating i7 3920QM drives, which are of a more heavy power requirement and potentially could overheat things, but I am doing some research, as I have mentioned, In fact, one research device I will briefly mention, even though it's not part of the fleet officially yet, has been used to test this higher powered CPU, which could go into any of the 3rd gen Intel processor-based ThinkPads. I will probably swap this out to one of those eventually. But for now, it's still running with its i7-3740QM, which is quite fast enough. You see it's rated at 2.7 gigahertz. When it's doing hard work, it can go up to 3.5, 3.6 gigahertz per thread. In fact, I'll show you what I'm doing to tax it right at the moment. I may have mentioned this in a live stream at some point. I've gone back to doing some research, and to do that, I've had to use a bit of software that I've used before for working out some general relativity stuff. Anyway, I won't bore you with the details, but I'll show you how this laptop copes with it when it's running something. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so now I've got it up and running. This is a program called Cadabra. It's used for basically doing some tensor manipulation as part of working with general relativity, basically. As I said, I want to bore you with the details. This is not, by the way, a modern piece of software. This is not AI. This is far from AI. Let me have a look, see how old this is. I think it's 2005. Now there you go, the copyright's from 2006 to 2011, so my 2005 guess wasn't too far off. So this is not anywhere near new enough to really be anything to do with AI. This literally just churns through the equations you throw into it, manipulating and simplifying them as you dictate with your commands. I don't want to go into too much detail. Like I said, this is basically nothing more than a glorified text editing package, but it does do a lot of hard work. And just to show you that, I want to show you how this computer struggles, doing the kind of computations I'm talking about. Bearing in mind, when I did my PhD, the desktop computer I had at Queen Mary, up to when I finished in 2016, was itself only a quad-core, I think, probably an i7, and it was rated to probably 3.5 gigahertz per core, but it wasn't that much more powerful than this laptop. To be fair, I didn't have this laptop at the time, but this laptop actually predates me at the PhD by quite some way. This laptop goes back to, 2010, 2012, 2014 latest, probably about 2010. So this is a well-old laptop, and it was still probably more powerful than the desktop I used to have to use when I was doing my research. Anyway, let's see how this laptop deals with this research, or at least running through one tiny bit of tensor manipulation. Now, I just want to point out that the processor speed it's showing down in the bottom right-hand corner is the average across all 8 threads. So it wouldn't necessarily show the one that's being taxed the most, or at least it's the average. But I want to show you how much this is being pushed, because the average, spoilers, is going to go up from what are you doing at the moment? 1.2 gigahertz. Let's see what happens when I get the thing to run properly. Plink. That's having a good old think, and it's up to 3.4, 3.5, 3.4. So it's bimbling around the 3.4, 3.5 gigahertz range at the moment. So and also the fan comes on. I don't often get to hear the fan working on my laptop because it's not normally put through this level of work. But this does push it. It's gone above 3.5. Is it still working? Yeah, still doing it. It's got a lot to do. It's a complicated thing it has to work through. I'm glad I don't have to do it, and it can do it for me. Still bimbling around 3.4, 3.5 gigahertz. It's done. Right. Whee! And it's gone back down to 1.2. Anyway, look. Equation. I'm sure it'll mean nothing to most people, and if it does, who'll be interested? Anyway, that's what I've been using the main laptop for. I've told you about the small disaster it's had and the upgrades it's had in the meantime, but this is my daily driver. Still doing what it's supposed to do. Let's move on to the next laptop, and it's hard to choose between the T420, the old daily driver, and the T530, which does a lot of useful stuff for me. But since I've mentioned the T420 and they are related most closely, we'll go on to that now. So welcome back to the T420. This is still doing what it's supposed to do, largely. It also had a problem with this Express Card slot being destroyed, and so I had to change the motherboard on this as well, which had the added bonus of not only, again, this one seemed to get louder speakers when I had a new motherboard as well. also managed to repair the Wi-Fi card, which I'd killed, which is the reason I swapped the T430 in the first place, because I killed the internal Wi-Fi card, at least partially. And you may know that I had the Wi-Fi then running through a connector going to the hard drive slot inside this machine, the SATA slot inside. Completely weird and impractical, but it worked, so can't really knock it. But now it doesn't need it anymore. This is a fully functioning T420 with everything working. The headphones jacks always worked on this, to be fair. And yeah, I still use this occasionally when the T430 and the T530 are both caught up doing other things. I will use this to render videos. I've also been lending it to my friend to help her edit stories for another friend, for Lonnie, in fact, on comics. And yeah, so this is less to say on this one, really. Oh yeah, I'm running on battery, I forgot. Screen's just dimmed. Yeah, this is doing what it's supposed to. It has, let me just check this. Oh yeah, of course it does. This one is, I knew there was something else that changed, because I destroyed the Express Card slot. When I repaired this, when I repaired this one, I treated it to a full 2 terabyte NVMe drive on its Express Class slot, and it now boots into the NVMe drive. So it's, although it's a T420, it boots up at least as fast as the T430, possibly faster, because it boots into the NVMe. Yeah, and also you can see I dropped Dropbox a long time ago. There was a video on that too, and I now sync everything to Google Drive, which is exactly what the 420 is doing right now. It's in the middle of syncing with all the stuff I've uploaded from the 430 onto Google Drive. It's now currently downloading it onto itself, because I thought, why waste the time? So have I covered everything on that? Yeah, it's still the same old thing. It's got a beautiful keyboard. Everything works fine. It's doing jobs for other people. I think we'll move to the T530 now. I might have to stop the video for a second. Welcome back to the video. This is obviously the third ThinkPad in the lineup, the T530. Why do I have so many ThinkPads? They do all actually do things. This, as you can tell, being a T530, has got a slightly larger screen than the T540, the T430 and the T420. And it's also running HD Plus as higher resolution. And as might be expected, this is doing stuff for which a large screen is more useful. For example, I watch videos of this more frequently. If I'm watching something in the evening to chill out, I watch it on this rather than on the 430. Also, I do some video editing on this as well, because it's useful for that. And I've been watching Monkey, the old TV series, recently, and editing the title sequence for the second season to make it more like the first season. Since I've been watching the Monkey season on this laptop, I've been doing the video edits to that on it as well, because it makes perfect sense. This has got an NVMe drive in it, which it is booting from, but it's slightly smaller, because I was being a bit of a cheapskate, and it's only a 1 terabyte. Let me just check. So I've been sneakily looking at the system information, and from what I can see, I'm pretty sure that I've got a small SD card in there, which I use to put a sacrificial install of Linux Mint on, and then I installed everything onto the NVMe card, which, although it's only 1 terabyte, is enough to store some of the files I've got on my backed up drive. So I only sync a few of the folders from my backed up drive, like the videos and sometimes the writing ones, with this laptop. So it's not quite as overwhelmed with stuff as the T430 and indeed the T420 are, because, well, as you just heard, this has got a slightly smaller NVMe drive in it, so I'm trying to be a bit stingy and with the space being used. As I say, this has been used to edit everything I'm looking at the moment, including the Monkey stuff. I wonder if I can get away with showing some of this. Monkey. Season 2 with better titles. Season 2, so dodgy to do this, I might get copyright struck, in which case I'll have to cut this section out, but let's see. So here's my improved titles. So Season 2 did not have these titles. These are the Season 1 titles. Let me jump in. Oh, too far. Oh yeah, I forgot the titles are very short. This is the good titles. Which you don't get on the second season usually.
Tease the gods and everyone and have some fun. Monkey magic, monkey magic, monkey magic, monkey magic, monkey magic.
Wow. Let's get rid of this. No copyright strikes, please. Please don't copyright strike me. Bye-bye, monkey. Bye-bye, Tripitaka. So that's what the T530's been used for. It's had loads of stuff to do, and I'm very glad I have this on as well. It gets used frequently. Now on to the next one. Now we're on to two of my least loved ThinkPads, the two T430S's I own. Now both of these I bought before I understood the limitations of the T430S, which is why once I did, and I moved on to things like the T420 and then eventually the T430 full fat, not the S version, both of those laptops got relegated to less glamorous tasks. The one you're currently staring at, sitting on top of my Yamaha Clavinova electric piano, is one that I have deemed the sacrificial Windows laptop. It's the only laptop I have Windows installed onto. Let me just bring it up in all its Microsoft glory. As you can see with most of my ThinkPads, even though it's a third generation Intel processor, it's been upgraded to the standard 7-row keyboard. Even my least loved ThinkPads have been, where possible, upgraded to the 7-row keyboard. As you can see, it's giving me two options because I've got two installs of Windows on here. Let me just deal with that. Okay, we're into Windows. I can't remember if it's Windows 8 or XP, Windows 8, whatever it is. I can look in a second. Whatever it is, it's some vile version of Windows. The only reason I have this Windows PC is for running virtual instruments, VSTs, because I've yet to find a decent VST piece of software in Unix, in Ubuntu, in any Linux distro, which is annoying because it's a simple thing to do. It shouldn't be that difficult to have a working Linux version. I just haven't found one. Anyway, I have Savvy Host on this, and I'll just show you it running. It's not currently plugged into the Clavinova, which is what I use as my MIDI keyboard, mostly because the MIDI leads somehow over time got snapped. I've got new MIDI leads, but I've yet to plug them all in, so I'll just show you it running Savvy Host. I brought Savvy Host up, and I brought up an electric piano, and although the piano isn't plugged in as a MIDI piano, you can still play it badly. I have had to do this on occasion using the keyboard on the actual laptop itself. I guess that's why you have to have a nicer keyboard on there, like a 7-row one. I'll just quickly show you it doing its ham-fisted playing. Anyway, that's the only purpose that laptop serves. You might have noticed underneath the T430S, the hated T430S, there's another laptop poking out, sitting on a cooling fan desk mat, actually. But there is another ThinkPad there. That's because I do despise those T430Ss. This one is an L530 straight. I got that because, unlike the T430Ss, you can upgrade the processors, among other things. So I will probably retire both T430Ss, I'll show you the other one in a second, and replace them with the L530 ThinkPads, and upgrade those as much as possible. The L530s, I've discovered, don't have Express Card slots, which is a bit of a disappointment, but On the other hand, they can still have their CPUs, memory, other things upgraded, put SSDs in, which I will almost certainly do because they're running SSDs already, I think. So yeah, you will see in the future those laptops, even my Windows sacrificial ones, being replaced. I was going to not bin, but put those T430Ss in the loft because I don't like them. But I've just thought I've got some light versions of various Linux distros. I'm becoming increasingly disenchanted with Linux Mint and even Ubuntu long-term stable release, which I've got on one laptop, which I've not shown and I'll barely mention today. But even though I've tried both of those, I'm getting a bit annoyed with the insistence on installing bloatware on these new installations of Mint and even Ubuntu. So I'm going to try some lightweight Linux installs, probably Debian based, but possibly some other ones. We'll find out. But anyway, I might use the T430Ss for just that purpose, for testing these lightweight and possibly more usable, less cumbersome distros. That leads me on to the next T430S. And so we see possibly my most unloved and uncared for ThinkPad of all, another T430S. This one shoved under a desk somewhere. In my study, it's used in my media server. I use it for watching videos on projectors, films on projectors projected on the wall behind where I'm currently filming. And that's its only purpose, is to sit there and stream stuff or watch stuff I've actually got on file. Occasionally on DVD even, projected on the wall. So this one hasn't even got a 7-row keyboard. I think it once did, but I nicked it to put in a different laptop, and so I gave it back one of the many standard T430, T530 keyboards I've got knocking around in my loft. So this is, and I don't think it even sits properly in the actual chassis because I was so lazy. Anyway, that's also sitting on top of another ThinkPad, another L530. So that one will also get replaced with an L530. I've got lots of chips left over from other upgrades. Hello, one of the cats at least loves it. Oh, hello. And I'll try and upgrade the L530s as high as I can with what I've already got. So if I've got some fairly high speed Intel third generation processors knocking around, I'll see if I can upgrade the L530s as high as possible without spending any money. You might see some videos on that if I can be bothered. It's not the most glamorous thing to talk about, but we'll see how far we can push the L530s based on what crap I've got knocking around anyway. And that 530 will then take over the task of being the media server with a slightly bigger screen, I guess. I think that I've got the crapper resolution screens. They don't have the HD Plus screens. Then again, the media server doesn't have an HD Plus screen on it right now. It's got a 14-inch screen of the lowest possible spec you can get. Given it's running through a projector as a media server, it doesn't really care what its screen is. It's the projector that limits it. But anyway, I digress. It's going to be replaced with an L530 in the near future. Oh, and you might notice this one's running an old version of Bodhi Linux, which I think I've talked about in a previous video. And through the power of shaky cam and with change of location, welcome to the final part of my ThinkPad's fleet update, which is of my aging ThinkPad Edge 15, which, as you can always pick up the Wi-Fi, even from the music shed here, it's managed to pick up Wi-Fi. This ThinkPad I bought, I can't remember why I bought it originally. I think I bought it because I was experimenting with audio recording, and right now it's recording the audio for its own video. It's in the music shed, as you can guess, for recording stuff that's played on various instruments out here in the music shed. And I think I was right that the ThinkPad Edge 15 does have slightly better sound shielding than some of the other ThinkPads I've used in the past, although many of them are actually pretty good. The T430, the T530 and the T420 all seem to be pretty good at recording audio, to be fair. Maybe some of those other ThinkPads which I don't like so much that weren't so great at the audio recording, though thinner ones might not be as well shielded. Anyway, This survives. It persists even with its Generation 1 Intel processor inside it. It does a good job of recording audio. That's why it's still here. I might do some more stuff with this. I recently noticed... Where did I get a shot? Somewhere on here. Ruining the audio there. I just realized I'm an idiot. Yeah, this is why it took me so long to realize. This thing has an Express Card slot. The reason I didn't realize it has an Express Card slot is because I'd already used it 1,000 years ago. The extra USB slots I'm currently using are in fact the Express Card slots. So this Edge, ThinkPad Edge 15, has an Express Card slot. Let me just spin that around again for a second. It'll interfere with the sound. Yeah, so unlike later generation Edges, I never wanted an Edge. It was just came up cheap and, I got it. I have got, okay, spoilers, the ThinkPad that's not featuring on this video is another Edge 15, but this one is an Edge 15 530 essentially. It's a third generation Edge 15, and it's got G3's processor, and they don't have Express Card slots. The reason I bought it was not for an Express Card slot. I bought it to mess around with other things. In fact, I'm going to be using that to max it out to its best possible specifications in the absence of an Express Card slot, and I'm going to give processor tests on it above the level which should be deemed safe. That said, spoilers, I've already kind of started doing that already, and you may have guessed I've already kind of tested one of the G3 processors I wanted to try in one of the other ThinkPads, and yeah, spoilers, it works and hasn't burnt out the other Edge either. Anyway, that Edge will not be in this video. You may have seen it though. It may have snuck into shot a couple of times. That will be a whole video all of its own. Meanwhile, the original Edge Generation 1, still poddling away with its G1 processor, is perfectly good for audio, and that's why it lives out in the music shed. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed all the ThinkPad fleet update information you could possibly ever want, or possibly don't even want. And whatever the next video is, to all my watchers, viewers, subscribers, etc., take care.
Masters, mistresses, the Doctor requires materials in order to maintain the TARDIS and ensure continued functionality. He similarly requires carbon-based comestibles to sustain his own biological functions and existence. Master would never say this, but he requires aid beyond that supplied by this unit in order to acquire these. To aid the Doctor in his various tasks and creations, this can be most effectively achieved via Patreon or Substack subscriptions, or through donations directly to PayPal. Or if you desire physical goods in return for your contributions, written accounts of my travels with the Doctor are also available on Amazon. Links are in the description below. Thank you, masters, mistresses.